calling all women. Hello, hi, how are you? Those that identify with pronouns she/her. This is for all the gals. I'm drained. I'm real drained. I'm real tired. I can't keep up with any of the facts. I don't know where the propaganda ends. And so here at Drano Media, we're just going to continue on with draining the propaganda from the facts. So here is OMG. I'm drained, but hopefully you're not after you watch this. The Washington Post just put out an article saying why birth control misinformation is on the rise. And as a female, I went my whole life thinking that birth control was 110% safe, that if a doctor gives you anything, then you trust your doctor, right? Sometimes you might trust your doctor more than your mom. You remember your very first appointment as a young girl asking about birth control, and the doctor would quickly say to your parent, your guardian, is it okay if I talk to your daughter alone? So we built up all this trust, and we're finding out that we're being lied to. Women now more than ever are getting off birth control, and the Washington Post doesn't want that for us. I watched this yesterday and I started sweating out of my pits. I already got a sweat stash going on. My shoes are off. I got sweaty socks. It bothered me so much because why is it that when women decide what's good and healthy, we have to fight and argue the why?
If you search birth control on TikTok or Instagram, you might get a flood of misleading posts. Videos about hormonal birth control aren't new, but the misinformation landscape in post-Roe America is uncharted territory.
Okay, just gonna pause it right there really quick. We're already starting to say this post-Roe v. Wade America like it's this scary thing where we don't actually have access to abortions. And I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am not pro-abortion. I'm just not. I am in the camp of pro-life. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. You know kind of what you're getting into as far as where my head and my heart lies and how I see our Constitution. But if I was to play devil's advocate real quick, Roe v. Wade, we'll go into this later in the video, but access to abortions have skyrocketed in the full calendar year that Roe v. Wade has been overturned for 2023. And we can go state by state and see that you actually do have access to abortion. Not that I'm happy about that, but you might be. So we continue on.
Tori.
Physicians that we have spoken to have said that it's really alarming to them
Lauren
that they see
Weber.
many women who are actually coming from red states seeking abortions that they were unable to access at home because they listened to an influencer who said birth control is evil and, you know, could give you all these horrible side effects without necessarily speaking to their medical provider to better understand the context around.
Okay, why do we need context as to whether or not birth control is safe? You look at Lauren Weber's bio, so I'm just gonna pull it on up. We're just gonna start at the beginning. Why don't we? Lauren Weber, okay, from the Washington Compost. She says that she's a health and science accountability reporter. However, if I do a quick little scroll on the Googler, I can see that she really harps on birth control misinformation. And then she suddenly gets into politics, talking about how Trump is making fun of Biden for stuttering, and that draws outrage upon Americans. We can all agree that Joe Biden is absolutely buck wild, all right? And I'm not even gonna make this video like political, but there's no, like, you see the gaffes, you see all the weird stuttering, and then you just can't help but laugh or also be embarrassed. Or if you're a Democrat, you feel a little obligated to defend his gaffes and whatnot and kind of look at him as the scope of like the nice old man. Sure, I'll give you that. But the fact that this woman prides herself on being a health and science accountability reporter, and she's clearly writing about politics, this is very dishonest. She's talking about taxes, talking about COVID misinformation. Clearly there's some agenda here, and it's pretty darn obvious when you follow this article of the New York Post. So we're just gonna pull up the original article. So they're making the argument that many social media influencers recommend natural alternatives, such as timing sex to menstrual cycles, which they say is a less effective form of birth control. But to whose standards? The standard that they're claiming is by a man. It's a man doctor, this guy right here, Michael Belmonte. And you can see that he clearly has an agenda himself. If you look at his actual cubicle, he's got the alphabet flag. I'm just gonna say it's the alphabet flag with all the colors, and facts are important plastered on the background. I think it's fair to say that when we talk about women's reproductive rights, when we talk about birth control, when we talk about everything that's happening all up in here, it's for the gals that have the her/she. It's not we, it's everyone. It's everyone that is a female. This So I have a hard time listening to this guy talk about the fact that birth control is so bad when he don't got a woman's body. Where does he know? He doesn't know about cramping. He just hears me telling him about cramping. Social media influencers are pushing this narrative because how they say in the article, it's advantageous for them. They make money off of promoting this holistic health. If you look at numbers for birth control, of course America doesn't want women to get off birth control. Of course the world doesn't want women to get off birth control. If you just look at the numbers for the revenue of over-the-counter birth control, it's pretty darn bad. It's $664 million just in 2022. Take that a step further. You want to look at like how many people. So you talk about over-the-counter birth control. So you have that option. Then you also have the option to like use condoms. I always feel like it's weird saying condoms on YouTube. It's kind of like, I don't know if you, can you say penis on YouTube? I don't know. It just sounds a little weird. But yeah, it's like, it feels a little wrong. But if you look at the sales for condoms, it's 1.3 billion, which that accounts for men and women paying. So of course, big pharma, big birth control doesn't want you females to buy or to stop buying birth control because you make up just an additional half. You make half of that money. 664 million goes into over-the-counter birth control in revenue. That's absolutely nuts. All right. Well, the global contraceptives market size is projected to grow over 6% from 2023 to 2033. You hear 6% and you're like, well, that doesn't sound too bad. That just probably sounds like it's normal projection of the times. But how about the fact that the market is expected to garner what 6% means is 45 billion by the end of 2033. And that's up from a revenue of 26 billion in 2022. So clearly there's money to be made. And that's why there's always this like weird cloak of birth control is good for you. It's empowering. It's fine. So even if you were just to look at the history of birth control, do you know it? I don't know. But if you don't, I think you'd find it pretty interesting that birth control was actually created by two men from Harvard, big brains, and their intent was actually to depopulate. So it was never with the intent that like women could have this like sexual liberation. I don't think it's really good to have sexual liberation. You can run into some trouble. You know, you might get a crazy ex. You never know. People get attached too quick. You just want to move. You want to move a little slow. You know, something like that. But okay, back to the history of the pill. So it was in the 1950s, and they tested birth control on mentally ill women in Massachusetts. That was one of their testing groups, and the other was low-income Puerto Rican women. So tell me that the intent wasn't good. It was bad. You're allowed to say that. It's okay. And it's true. It almost reminds me of like when you think about the Civil War, you know, like in politics now, everybody's like, oh, the North was Republican and the South was Democrat. And then they switch, the parties switch. Now the Democrats are good and the Republicans are bad. Like, no, maybe history is just history and history's facts. And we don't need to like do this weird mental gymnastics to say that something's good now. You don't have to. All right. So let's continue on. Let's talk about Margaret Sanger because she's involved in all this, you know. She's involved in all this testing. So she was a famous feminist. She created Planned Parenthood. She's the founder. Although I will say I'm from New York, and in New York City, Planned Parenthood of New York City, like the main chapter, denounces any affiliation with Margaret Sanger because they know that she was bad. They know that she was freaking nuts. So Margaret Sanger's bad, okay? Because she even contacted, you talk about the pool of people being Puerto Rican. She wrote to the governor of Puerto Rico in 1933, okay? And she said, this is actually kind of nuts. Talking about wanting to test on Puerto Rican women, the governor was very okay with it, saying, the tragedy of the situation is that more intelligent classes voluntarily restrict their birth rate, while the most vicious, most ignorant, and most helpless and hopeless part of the population multiplies with tremendous rapidity. So we know the intent. It's to pick out what they see, whoever, you know, is at the top, whether it's your own politicians or big pharma deciding who gets to procreate and who doesn't. The history doesn't look so hot. What about the side effects? What does it actually do to your body? So maybe you've seen her, maybe you haven't. Dr. Brighton, she's actually very popular on social media, and she has this great chart on the effects of birth control on your body. The Washington Post is saying this is misinformation, but let's start from the top. Let's start top to bottom. Birth control alters brain structure, function, mate selection. You're more prone to selecting a man that's less of the like male dominant features that women would naturally seek out in procreating. And this can increase the production of neurotoxins in the brain. No wonder us girls are crazy. We got all these neurotoxins, popping pills. Birth control can provide hormonal headache relief, possibly. But migraines and headaches also can start or become worse while on birth control. Your skin, it can get worse. Stress, ovarian, uterine, and colorectal cancers, heart attacks, messes with your microbiome. How many times do we talk about the fact? I cannot tell you how many times I did not follow through with plans. I'm the flakiest person on the planet. I will cancel plans because I got leaky gut. My abdomen hurts all the time. My pants do not fit the same on Monday that they fit the same way on Friday. It's the way it is. Why? Birth control, nutrition deficiencies, vaginal infections. Don't want that. Libido, bone health, hormonal birth control may impair bone density in teenage women, autoimmune diseases, blood clotting, diabetes, weight change, blood pressure, effects on your liver. One that I kind of enjoy, maybe, is the fact that it could also enlarge your breasts. That would be kind of nice. The juice is not worth the squeeze. I shouldn't be doing it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. It's just not. Based on all the other things that I've just said. So thyroid issues, cyclical mood symptoms, anxiety and depression, and an increased risk of suicide. Those are the facts. Now, I would challenge the Washington Compost to just reply back with, out of all those things that I've listed out, which one is misinformation? Which one ain't true? None. They also say in this article that the reason why, oh my gosh, women are getting off birth control, so that means that they have to get an abortion. This is like the crunchy era. Like all the girls are all about health and wellness now. So I find it, again, very hard to believe that women who are self-selecting, again, because it's our choice whether or not we want to take birth control, are self-selecting to get off birth control, prioritizing their health, but then they're going to go get an abortion. Like that ain't crunchy. That's not good for you. The side effects are pretty much in line with birth control. The correlation between saying that women are getting off birth control, therefore they have to get an abortion, is just no bueno. Abortion numbers are actually, since Roe v. Wade was overturned, abortion numbers, unfortunately, have risen. This is the highest that they've ever been in U.S. history since post Roe v. Wade, full calendar year. Because I really don't think that this is a matter of being on the left or the right, I'm actually, I know this is wrong for Republicans and conservatives. We really don't like the World Health Organization. They actually do say something that's correct here. Again, the Washington Post is saying that women's rights are being suppressed, but they're trying to push birth control. They say that they represent what women genuinely feel when it comes to reproductive rights, but they push the abortion case. But the World Health Organization is not lying here. Abortion is a common health intervention, and around 45% of all abortions are unsafe, of which 97% take place in developing countries. So why would we even want to go, like, why? We're a first world country. We're doing all right. Even the World Health Organization is saying, yeah, it's like these like third world countries that are actually doing these things. So maybe just deal with Mother Nature on your own. The last thing I'm going to say is these are the same people that are pushing Dylan Mulvaney, okay? And Dylan Mulvaney literally came out with a music video trying to encompass women for all that they are and talks about walks of shame, being hungover, popping pills, and drinking every single day like it's any other day of the week and it's no big deal. So I have a very hard time believing that any of this like mainstream media is really pushing the real information. It's misinformation on their part because they want our dollars. The theory of the pink tax, one of my friends actually was just talking to me about this yesterday. I actually like didn't really know what that was. And then I looked it up and I was losing my mind. I don't know. Do you guys know about this? Your friends tell you? The pink tax. It's not an actual government tax, but it refers to pricing that inflates the cost of goods marketed to women. Like I said, birth control, $500 million market. You talk about razors. But our soaps, our lotions, all that stuff, this is just a money grabber. I don't buy it. I don't like it. I'm sweating out of my dress about it. We could talk about this forever, but Margaret Sanger is horrific. Birth control was created by men. It was intended to stop population. And just like any product, the point is to get people reliant so that you keep using and using and using. And the last thing that Big Pharma wants is for their revenue numbers to not hit $1 billion. So I'll be following up with this when the 2023 numbers come out because I'm sure they ain't looking pretty, and that'll pretty much just piece together every single thing, every single theory I got in my noggin. So I'm drained out and exhausted and I'm sweating everywhere. I hope you're not, because we just talked about it out loud and maybe you feel a little bit better. I don't know. Let me know. That's all I got.